Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Predictive Analytics show with Rhys, and it's great having Nick Whalen on this week's episode. Nick, how's it going?
It's going well. It's weird in Wisconsin. It's super warm in November 9th. I actually had on, I call it a man tank, but like just like I have these workout tanks. I had to do some errands. I was like, man, this feels good. I was just sweating otherwise. I was ready to get my winter coats out. I'm kind of, you know, in Wisconsin, you got to, add a little weight in the winter, but man, it backfired on me. It's like 70.
Well, we actually, and we said this on a previous show, that we actually have been up to see Mr. Nick up in Wisconsin this summer. It was good seeing you. And I related this on the last time you were on, but I'm a slow learner at times, and Rhys reminds me of this. So we're having burgers and what's good? It's a burger place. Fine, fine, fine. Nick gets mac and cheese. No, and Wisconsin and cheese. I'm a little slow learner on this because I just get a cheeseburger, and Nick's over there this big, nice looking mac and cheese bowl.
You are from the South, okay? You have an excuse for getting the cheeseburger.
Exactly. But all right, let's get to this. All right, I want to jump ahead. Nick, what do you think of your Wisconsin Badgers? You think they have a chance at something?
Well, man, I tell you what, Graham Mertz has been awesome. He's a guy that's been hyped up that didn't start last year, but was kind of the second coming. He's going to be this all amazing quarterback recruit, which they've had once before that didn't work out. But you know, okay, he's going to wait in the wings, and then all of a sudden he's got to play, and then he was amazing, and then COVID hit. But I tell you what, with how college football is this year, it's very different. I mean, all football has been different this year just because of lack of practices, lack of, I would say even some scouting's been down a little
Right.
bit. Who can play, who can't play. When you can get a quarterback that can see the field like he can right now, and again, I mean, he lit up Illinois, who Illinois is pretty bad apparently this year. They were good last year, but I think you got to have a shot. And the Big Ten, the way that they are, it's um, they might be a little bit different. Minnesota might be a little bit down. It looks like. I
Yes.
think you got to give them a shot. I mean, or in Minnesota, or I'm sorry, Michigan lost too. So there's only Ohio State to get through.
And it's good to see Indiana sneaking
Oh
up
yeah,
on people.
Indiana. How about
Isn't that
them?
awesome?
They're so well. The thing is, they're scoring so many points that they're in every game.
Yep. So what he's in the 2022 class, is that right, Mertz?
Right. Yeah, but he's a sophomore.
Where do you place him against some of the others? That's a good class. I mean, Howell, Slovis.
Right. Right. What's interesting? What's so interesting about those two is that they got really hyped up, and I watched. I was like, like I mean, they're good. They don't have a cannon, either of them.
Right.
I think they're pretty good processors of information, which is really good trait. It's actually my number one trait. But in terms of arm talent, I don't see Kyler Murray. If we want to go to Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields. By the way, Justin Fields, even prior to this year, I know people are hyping him up because of this year. His film last year was awesome. When you can throw a deep out to the field side, so the wide side of the field, and the corner's not close, you got an arm. That's the arm strength throw. That one in that dig where you have to throw it in that window, and he can drive that football. I mean, he's been awesome. But either way, digressing. Howell and Slovis, as you said, processors, they got a little bit of that moxie, making plays, scrambling around back there. But I would say Mertz could have the best arm talent of the three. But now we have such a small sample size, and I'm a big guy. I love a sample size. So let's see him play out a year. But I think he could be in that mix for sure.
Well, I will say this. You mentioned Fields. There is a non-zero chance that he is a better NFL player than Trevor Lawrence. Non-zero. I didn't say it was high. Non-zero.
Right. I honestly, it could be a pick your whichever one you want, because Lawrence digressed a little bit last year. He pressed. He tried to make too many plays. He's got some great talent. Let's just be honest.
Yes.
But Fields is underrated. So the gap between 1 and 2 is much smaller than the gap between 2 and 3. That gap is humongous.
Right.
It feels, and also if we want to talk about three is up in the air.
Yeah.
It's not Trey Lance.
No.
It's Trey Lance or Wilson or Kyle Trask, who also has been playing really well.
Or, but isn't there another one in there too? I just drew a blank. So I think Trask and Wilson, and I have Trey Lance after those guys.
Well, let me pull up my Devy report. See what else I got in there. But, oh man, I had the tight end class too. Oh, that tight end class is. We got to talk about that. That is amazing.
Kyle Pitts looks great, doesn't he?
Well, I mean, I don't know if you're a fan. I mean, I'm not a fan of like Jamie Newman. I'm not a fan of him. JT Daniels. I mean, he's okay. They're not great.
Oh, Mac Jones is the other guy.
Mac Jones is the other.
Mac Jones could be in there. Yeah, for sure. And then he hasn't played well this year, so let's just put that there. But Brock Purdy was he was kind of fun last year.
But I will take Mac Jones over Trey Lance today. It could change.
Yes.
But give me the accurate guy. Give me the guy, not the physical specimen. Give me the guy that can hit the throws.
Right.
Well, they are.
So the problem with Trey Lance is this. So one, small sample size, right? He played 1 year and people hyped him up, but he didn't progress from one read to the next. And he's playing at the above Alabama of teams in FCS. They've won so many national titles in a row that they're playing with so much more talent than anybody else. And when you want to look at the playoff run that he had last year, they didn't depend on him throwing, maybe running. He only had, I want to say, off the top of my head, actually, I can pull up the stat here in a second. He had 5 touchdown passes in 4 playoff games last year. That's not, I mean, you want to be a top pick. That's not it to me. And he needs to show me more. He's got a good arm. He's athletic. He can, drive the ball, but I need to see you going from 1 to 2 to 3, because that's what football is. And Mac Jones, he got thrown to the fire a little bit last year, but he's showing it this year.
Yeah.
So was Wilson, it's going to be fun to see who that next tier is. Now, how many of them are going to be first round picks is the next question. There could be quite a few.
I think it's a bunch. And I put this out on Twitter this week because when we look at the teams that possibly could need a quarterback, all right, that list is long. So let's say that you have 4 quarterbacks that are decent. Mac Jones, Wilson. Let's say there's 4 at the top and then a list. When we go down one layer, I'm pulling up I want you to push back and tell me how wrong I am. Do you mind?
No, I'm honest. So are you. I appreciate that.
All right. I think that I was just going to pull this thing. So I think Jets, Giants, Jacksonville, all looking for quarterbacks. Do you agree or disagree?
I agree.
All right. How about Washington?
Yes.
How about the Colts?
Yes. Depending on who's there. You know what I mean?
Depending if they resign Philip Rivers.
How about the Saints, possibly, with Brees' last year?
They're so weird with how much money they gave Taysom Hill.
I know. How about his Broncos, possibly? I mean, you never know. They're 3 and you think they're going to roll another year? I
don't think you can. You got to give Locke another year, I think.
He nearly beat the Steelers on the road.
Right.
All right.
He nearly beat the Titans. He is a winner. He's just not a fantasy player. Sort of like how Philip Rivers was earlier in his career.
All right. How about New England?
Oh, yeah. Because Kim, I got some heat on this one, Jeff, but I'm just saying people that were hating on Chicago for picking Foles over Cam Newton.
Yeah. How about San Francisco? How about San Francisco?
I think they only do it if they can get a great guy.
Okay. But I'm just saying. Yeah. All I was saying is
Chicago.
I have Chicago as a question. I have Cleveland as a question. I had Denver as a question. So I had Jets, Giants, Jacksonville, Washington, New England, San Francisco, and Indy.
Mm-hmm. And how about your sweatshirt?
Steelers. I think they need somebody, even if it's a Darnold kind of guy, somebody to groom, because they're going to be too far out. But what I was saying is, if there's 9 or 10 teams there, it could be even more, right? Rhys looking up. You see that wry smile on his face. But let's say it's 9 or 10 teams and you have 4 or 5 rookies. There aren't 4 or 5 good veterans.
No.
You're talking Jameis getting another starting gig. You're talking a lot of things.
Haskins could be traded as well.
Yeah,
especially if the football team gets a high pick.
Yeah, I don't think they'll get very much for him. But you know what I'm trying to get at, right,
Mhm.
Nick? Is that there are a lot of teams that are questionable right now, and so anyway,
Well,
And
Dak's
and,
a
and
free agent.
Dexter region. I'll go to Chicago. And part of it is, I mean, you know, people hate retreads. They hate it. They hate retread coaches. And to me, it's not necessarily fair because whether you're successful or not isn't always dependent just on the player. It's dependent on
right.
the situation, the system, injuries, coaching, so many things. And look at Ryan Tannehill. Let's just look at that right
Yes.
there. That's coaching, system, injuries, all that stuff. And now it's come together and he looks really good. Now, again, didn't look that great against Chicago. We know Chicago has a really great defense, but still, he is become a franchise guy. Why can't maybe Sam Darnold, maybe Daniel Jones, maybe Jameis Winston, whomever, because we also don't know how much guys are working, progressing behind the scenes. They need to maybe mature a little bit. There's so many things. It's so complex.
Yes.
It's not just simple this versus this. The other thing, this is a little bit of a soapbox, but people that say, hey, this team's better than this team because, they lost to the Saints and they beat the Saints, or however you want to put it. But NFL's about matchups. It's you
Yes.
you can't just do that. It's about so many things with matchups and things like it's such a there's so many variables and it's not easy. It's very complicated.
Yeah.
You mentioned teams that needed a free agent. So the free agent class besides Dak, Philip Rivers, Jacoby Brissett, Mitchell Trubisky, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Tyrod Taylor, AJ McCarron, Andy Dalton.
That's rough.
Yes.
And Dak, they're going to tag. The Colts are the team that I'm like interested because they're going to be too good to figure out what to do. And so
they might be able to get lucky and draft a late round quarterback like maybe Tanner Morgan.
Still though, I haven't been that impressed. All right, we're talking teams.
There's still Chad Kelly too.
Yes.
Just throwing that out there.
Swag Kelly.
And
there it
Nick
is.
Eason.
Yes. Nick Eason's a nice story, but I don't know if he'll ever pan out.
Jacob
Eason, yeah.
Sorry.
Nick Eason, D lineman, right?
Yeah. That was before he was born, probably. But all right, so let's talk your Bears. I say your Bears. I'm projecting them, that whole team and all their quarterback issues. I'm projecting them on you.
Go ahead.
They're 5-4, and I was looking up the schedule, and I put this out on a tweet. They have Packers twice, Vikings twice, Lions, Jaguars, Texans. 5 wins out of that, I think. You disagree?
I agree because here's the thing. As much as people want to hate on Chicago, their offense, their defense is insanely good. Yes. I mean, the Saints scored 23 points, and I think they had 8 drives that were 1st and 10 inside the 24-23. That's unbelievable. And that's the Saints. And they do this week in, week out. There's only one team that scored more than, I think, 23 or 24 points. That was the Falcons early in the year. And as much as people want to go and they want to point to Trubisky with all this kind of stuff, Trubisky played against Atlanta and the Giants and part of the Falcon game. Or I'm sorry, that's not correct. They started with, who they beat? Detroit, who he always lights up. Detroit, the Giants, and part of that Atlanta game. All pretty weak defenses. And Foles has had to play some tough defenses. Yeah. And I just don't think it's his fault. There's so many things. The offensive line's bad. I tweeted this out, Jeff. I mean, they're starting left tackle and right guard are opening day starters. They're down to their third string left guard, center, and right tackle. Third string. That's guys that, I mean, plus with COVID, you have to sign a guy. He's got to wait so long to even play. I mean, these are some practice squad guys. And you watch, he's just getting hit back there. Foles isn't mobile. But O-line's the top problem. The next problem is they are the most penalized team in the NFL. They can't get out of their own way. This last week, they had 2 drives before the fourth quarter that they were in the Titans territory. And 4th and 1, 4th and half a yard, penalty, false start, 4th and 10, they punt. They had another penalty, 10-yard penalty. It's like first and they made it 2 in a row, like 1st and 25. It's like the week before, Javon Wims punches a guy in the head, 2nd and 20. Here, I mean, like they just keep doing this, Montgomery fumbles, they return it for a touchdown. Like all these things happen, and people want to point at Foles. It is so far beyond Foles. Like I don't know what people are watching. Like what magic do you want him to pull out of? And he gets hit a lot. He's not perfect. I'm not defending that he's perfect, but the problems are well beyond Nick Foles.
I think he's a middle of the road NFL starter.
Yep.
At this point in his career.
Yep.
Middle of the road.
Middle to low. I mean, maybe he's like 15 to 24. That's fine.
I don't think he's in the bottom 10 though. I mean,
there's too many bad ones.
Yeah, it's
there are a lot of bad ones. You're right.
So on that note, if I think they're going to win 10, let's talk who's going to, and we'll let Rhys name his division starters, division winners.
Let's pull that up.
Look at his face. All right.
I'm trying to think.
All right, easy one for you. AFC West, Rhys.
Chiefs. That's the one that's.
I think we all have that one, right?
Yep.
AFC South.
Titans.
I'll say Titans as well.
I will too. They got to fix that defense though. It's pretty leaky.
Yep, but I'll still take them over the Colts, who are injured and JT's not playing as well.
Inconsistent. I think the best word to describe the Colts is inconsistent, as they can lose to the Jaguars one week, and the next week completely dominate the Bears. Well, not the next week, but later on in the season.
Right. Yep.
But also the Colts are. It's weird for us to think this, but they're great on defense and not so great on offense.
I know, it's so weird.
Trading that first rounder for DeForest Buckner was a great trade.
Yes, because the player that went at that pick was Tristan Wirfs, who is pretty good tackle, except besides getting thrown down by Khalil Mack. But he's played well, but DeForest Buckner's better. And the 49ers who had that pick traded back one and got Javon Kinlaw, who's been okay and cheaper.
But not Buckner.
No, he's a force in there.
So you have the Titans there.
Oh yeah.
All right, so let's go AFC North. I'll go Steelers with the 2-game lead.
Steelers 2-game lead is too large to overcome, even though the Steelers have to have a little bit tougher schedule.
Well, let's talk about this too. This is something I talked with Matt, Whalen on, good friend of you, I'm sure as well, yeah. Jeff. Lamar Jackson's not having the same year he had last year. Okay. No. And you want to look year in and year out. Now, again, people will evolve and get talent, but you want to look at after record-setting year, Patrick Mahomes didn't have as good a year the next year.
Right.
Carson Wentz, not as good the next year. I mean, every time that there is this unstoppable, Chip Kelly first started, and then the defense figures something out.
Exactly.
Lamar Jackson is not the same guy as he was last year. He'll get a couple runs here or there. He's not making everyone look silly. This play action where everyone's wide open. Mark Andrews is like a ghost now.
Yes.
And they've figured things out there. And I have some questions. No, they'll make the playoffs. Don't get me wrong. They need to up some things. Now, I have another tangent. I'll just start later, but I'm gonna go with Pittsburgh. That's my long answer.
All right, I don't disagree with you, and I saw a great article. I forget who, so I apologize for the attribution, lack of. Is that Greg Roman, who's there in Baltimore? Same thing happened with Kaepernick. Is like the system. People figure it out, and when it's not arm talent, and it's not like doing things traditionally. People can scheme this way, but the Ravens, here's their next 3 games I think are tough, and then it gets easier. They have at Patriots. That's not an easy game. Titans, and then at Steelers.
On Thanksgiving.
If they lose a couple of those, it's over, right? Then it gets easier. They have Cowboys, Browns, Jaguars, Giants, and Bengals.
Okay.
But still, 13-3 wild card team is almost unheard of.
Right.
But when I look at Pittsburgh's schedule, Bengals, Jaguars, Ravens, Washington football team, Bills, Bengals, Colts, Browns. I don't think there's 3 losses in there.
Yeah, there's only 4 tough games in there. So, if they split it, that's 2 losses the rest of the way.
Ravens, at Bills,
Colts. You want to say Colts?
Browns.
Yeah.
Browns.
They blew out the Browns, but that was without Nick Chubb. But I still don't think Nick Chubb's worth 31.
Yeah. All right.
No.
So AFC East. Bills. Anybody gonna say Dolphins on this?
Okay. I'm a Josh Allen fan. I'm a Stephon Diggs fan. I love what they're doing. I'm going to say the Bills, but I'm going to say this. I put out this tweet last year. I love what Miami is doing. Love what they're doing. They accumulated a tons of talent. Brian Flores he's a player's coach, and they love him. He had a great end of last year. People don't remember that. He won
8 games.
Yeah, he won a real good stretch at the end of last year, and then built that into this year. I mean, they're 5-3, and you want to look at, and I like to look at this whether it's anything or not. Point differential. They are plus 61 on the year in point differential. The Bills are plus 9. They have a better point differential than Tennessee, which is plus 31. They have, let's see, 1, 2, 3. They are 4th in point differential in the AFC. And then you want to add in, let's see, it's 61. They beat everyone in the NFC in point differential.
Wow.
4th in the NFL point differential.
Rhys corrected me. I was talking about the last 8 games of the season. Fitzpatrick was on a tear last year.
They won 5 games, so that's still really impressive. And the Bills, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I do not believe they played the 49ers or the Cardinals. Well, the Dolphins have played all the NFC West, I believe.
Here's their schedule. So tell me, if 5-3, tell me how many of these they win or lose. They host the Chargers this week, which is a nice catching them coming east, right?
Yeah.
Then they play at Rhys's Broncos. Then the Jets, the Bengals, Chiefs is a tough game. Patriots, Raiders, Bills.
That Bills game could decide the division, week 17.
I mean, the Raiders are a solid team too. Like there's some tough games in there, but the thing is they're not a pushover. Like you want to look at them. It's like, Preston Williams just went down, but they're doing it with Myles Gaskin. They're just doing it with like lunch pail guys. It'll be fun to see what Tua does, but when you got talent and people believe, things are different.
Yep. Plus, there's 2 things that need to be discussed with the Dolphins, and you allude to it. One, they have Houston's first rounder
and second rounder,
which is projected to be the 7th overall. Second of all, they have the second most cap space.
Yep.
First or second. All right, here's the Bills schedule the rest of the way. You tell me which one you like better. They play the Chargers. So they
Cardinals too.
Oh, they have a Cardinals, Chargers, Niners. And by that Niners, that's week 13, so they should have everybody back by then.
At 49ers cross country.
Yeah, then the Steelers, Broncos, Patriots, Dolphins. That could be that Dolphins game could be sitting there.
Now they have a 2-game lead though too. So
a game and a half, only 1 in the loss.
Yeah, it's 5-3, 7-3.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah. Man, I'm still gonna go Buffalo.
It should be. I'm with you there.
I'm Dolphins. I believe.
You know what baffles me about Buffalo though? What baffles me? What happened to the defense?
Right.
They're supposed to have this great defense, and they can't stop anybody.
Especially with McDermott being a defensive guy.
And they got White. White's getting lit up. He's one of the best corners. I mean, you got Ed Oliver up there. I love him. By the way, first 5-star recruit ever to go non-Power 5 conference team. Love it.
All right. Let's NFC West. Who wins? This one gets easier.
Does it?
Is it Seattle or Arizona? Because I don't think it's the Rams.
I'm gonna go with Arizona for fun. Seattle can't stop anybody. They're on pace to give up more passing yards than anyone else in NFL history.
And they'll give up more passing yards than any quarterbacks ever thrown for in NFL history, about almost 300 yards.
Yeah.
Wow.
Did you see that article? I sent a recent article that said that that defense is giving up 1,000 more yards on pace than anyone else. It's crazy. I'm going to go with so it's Arizona, Seattle, I think, right? It's not the Rams.
You could pick the Rams. It's up to you.
I'm going to go with, I don't like, this is one of my least favorite teams, but I'll go with Seattle just because of veteran factor, and they get Carson back soon.
Right. They're all coming off of losses, by the way. Everyone in that division's lost.
Which is pretty funny. All right. NFC South.
Well, who does he have?
Oh, I have the Seahawks.
All right, NFC South. I'll take the Saints. I'll take after what happened on Sunday night. I'll take the Saints. How about you?
They're on a 5-game winning streak right now. I'm gonna go Tampa Bay. I'm gonna say they're gonna figure it out.
For me, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers remind me sort of like the Baltimore Ravens. They can tear up anybody that's not 1 or 2 teams. And they have to play those 1 or 2 teams quite often. And that's why I think it's a problem for Tampa Bay.
All right, Tampa Bay schedule at the Panthers. That I will say this: I think Panthers are better than their record suggests. They've lost 4 straight.
Yeah.
But they gave Kansas City everything they wanted. They play at the Panthers, host the Rams, and then they play the Chiefs. And now I still have
1 and 2 maybe there.
Falcons twice down the stretch. And so the Saints have Niners, Falcons, Broncos, Falcons, Eagles, Chiefs, Vikings, Panthers. I'll take New Orleans in that because I'll say that they're a game and a half up.
Right. I just got to think they figure it out. I mean, that was a bad game, but everyone's going to be down on them. I mean, it's
Buy low window.
Yeah.
There you go. There it is. I mean, the Saints are a 5-game winning streak.
Yeah.
Tampa's terrible. I mean, it wasn't too long ago. Packers were over because Tampa crushed whatever. But then the Bears beat Tampa. Like no one knows. You don't know what's going to happen.
You bring up a great point because nothing is as bad or as good as it seems. And all those, that's the reason I talk like I don't gamble. And I'm like, here's why, because Vegas knows way more and there's too much emotion in it.
It's what have you done for me lately? You won't watch even like DFS or whatever. People, they're like, oh, this guy's gonna have another great game in a row. Dalvin had 2 in a row. I bet you he doesn't have 3.
Right.
Like you. Same thing with Russell Wilson or DK or Lockett. You have no idea which one's gonna go off. There's always gonna be that down game. It's gonna happen.
But I will say this: there's no way Tampa can do very much. Maybe even they won't beat Carolina if they only have 4 running back rushes in a game.
Right.
Like Ronald Jones had 3, Fournette had 1 in that game. Mm-hmm. There is no way, and I'm not saying establish a run. I'm not saying any of that. But when you become one-dimensional,
especially against as good of a pass rush team as the Saints,
right? Oh, I would even say against Carolina as bend but don't break pass defense.
Brian Burns looked really good yesterday.
Good.
Brian Burns.
Yes, he was yesterday.
All right, so we have a little bit of dissension there. NFC North, everybody Packers, or do you think your Bears might get there?
I got to go with the Packers. They got a 2-game lead.
Yeah.
Or what we call it? What do you call it? 1.5.
All right, NFC least.
Jeez. You gonna give me a rest of the year schedule? Nah, I'll go with the Eagles just because they're up.
All right, I will tell you why.
They got the tie too. Remember that they got the tie and the game up and the win.
Yes,
except for against the football team. The football team. I don't know how close they are to division, but in that division, it could be really close.
Yeah.
So it's 3-4-1, 2-6, 2-7, 2-7.
Yeah. So, but what I was going to say is, tell me how many the Eagles win at this. All right. At Browns, host the Seahawks, at Packers, play the Saints, at the Cardinals, at the Cowboys, home versus football team. Did you not see me? I put this out on Twitter. I was like, they're going to be 6-9-1.
Oh man, that's bad.
Tell me how many of those they're going to win. 3. At Browns, possibly. 3. Seahawks, at Packers, hosting the Saints, at the Cardinals. They could go 0-5 on that stretch.
I'm gonna say they're going to win 3 because they're just going to win 1. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They'll win one of those.
The football team did beat the Eagles when the Eagles were at full strength. They don't have any excuses.
Right.
Week 1. But that could be 6-9-1 as your division champ.
Is it any great? I mean, I hope it's worse. I hope it's like 5-10-1. It'd be awesome.
Yes, man.
And then they host the game.
Rhys will tell you, I love chaos. I'm like, more chaos, the better.
Yeah, it's great.
All right,
they're going to host a game. People are going to be mad about it.
Oh yeah,
the number 5 wild card teams could be static. Sweet, I get to play the NFC East instead.
Could be Tampa Bay, right?
Yeah,
it could be Tampa or your Bears traveling to Philly. To bid.
And that's the one thing I wanted to talk about is that we know what happens early season NFL. What happens when it gets not 70 Wisconsin? Defense starts to matter. That's when Baltimore and Chicago are going to start thriving. Maybe the Colts too.
Pittsburgh
people always count them out. I can't remember how many times. No offense. Everyone picks best quarterback, best offense. That's who they always pick.
Yeah.
This isn't fantasy football. When you pick NFL wins, defense matters. And that's when I think when it gets colder, that's why Chicago might have a better end of the year because it's colder. And when they're hitting and they're making plays, Eddie Jackson has 2 other defensive touchdowns people don't know about. They returned that came back on penalty. He could add 3 already this year. And, you want to keep adding that on. Jalen Johnson's playing awesome opposite field.
Yes.
They have so much going on. They just lost Roy Robinson Harris to a shoulder injury, which is sad, D lineman. But, Baltimore's the same way. They got Calais Campbell. Like, really? You just added him to that team?
Even though he's out.
He got hurt.
Oh, did he?
Calf strain. He's out like 3 weeks, I believe.
Not playoff time. But I'm just saying people aren't going to count out the defense. And then when you look at teams that are going to struggle defensively, Seattle, Green Bay, who are, everybody's flawed in the NFC. That's the other thing too. You have to have matchups. Their defense. Well, it's better than Seattle's. Seattle's got up 243 points.
I know. That's what we were saying. Look how many yards they've given up. But 243 in 8 games is a lot.
Actually, hold on. The Cardinals have given up the second least amount of points in the NFC.
Maybe some scheduling.
Interesting.
All right.
But that might also be why Derrick Henry always turns it on for the fantasy playoffs. It's because everybody's cold and he can run. And their hands get cold too as they're trying to tackle.
Well, everyone's hurt.
It's harder too.
Everybody's injured too. That's the thing. Once you get through part of the season, you're 100% healthy. It's a myth. You're not healthy.
Right. And injuries, defense and injuries will determine, is Roethlisberger going to make it through it? Or is, if he's out, the Steelers are gone. Same with Mahomes. There aren't very many teams that can sustain that.
He got a shot at halftime. He hurt his MCL. I could see his knee bend that way.
Yeah.
And he's old. I'm like, I put out a tweet that he's, who is it? Lance, what's his name?
Zierlein?
No, the Varsity Blues, the quarterback Lance. You remember he goes in and keeps getting these shots in his knee. Like, that's exactly what he had happen at halftime.
All right, let's move over to mid-season. Who's the MVP for you?
MVP, man.
It's not wide open.
It is wide open right now. I'm gonna say Patrick Mahomes.
I could see that.
Yes.
I could also see if Roethlisberger takes them 16-0 that he should get votes.
Right. That's true.
All right. How about Coach of the Year?
Coach of the Year. Brian Flores.
Flores, to me, if the Dolphins or the Panthers are in playoff contention or have a winning record at the end of the year, they should get Coach of the Year. But Flores right now looks like the better choice.
Yeah.
But Rules will coach a very good team, considering no one thought they'd win more than 4 or 5 games.
Well, Chicago ended their 3-game winning streak. That's the thing. They were cooking.
Yeah.
And they haven't had McCaffrey.
How about Rookie of the Year?
Rookie of the Year.
It's got to be a quarterback.
I'm going to say Robinson. Why not James Robinson?
Yeah. I like that.
I'll say it's
Herbert. You're right. It's got to be Herbert.
Or Tua. If Tua leads them to the playoffs, it'll be Tua.
I
don't know. But it wasn't Baker Mayfield.
The way Justin Herbert's playing, my gosh.
Just wait till he hits puberty. I only say that because he has the face and it reminded me of my high school vintage. All right, I got a question for you. If we redrafted, all right, first of all, you're the top 3 quarterbacks. How would you have them, Rhys, in order? And then we'll kick it to Nick.
For Dynasty?
No, the rookies.
I'm saying like rookie for Dynasty. Herbert, number 1.
It's a tough one.
I'm going to go with Tua because I expect them to use the Texans' first-round pick to draft a really good receiver like Jamar Chase if he falls, or Devontae Smith or someone like that to really help out Tua and give some pressure off of Devontae Parker. Then Burrow, but it's really, really close there.
How about you, Nick?
Wow, that's a tough question, Jeff. You have to go with Herbert. You just do because he's playing insane. And the thing that I like about this is why I love watching film is, and I do it every year, for all these guys. I hated Herbert. I was like, he's so overrated. He's bad. But then I watched film. So my graduates, I was like, you know what? Herbert, he's made some steps this last year. Like I see some things. So I love being wrong. I love when guys improve because I'm like, oh, good. So I learned some things. And it's more about his processing that I liked. He can make multiple reads, which is a huge thing for me. So I'm pretty excited, what he's doing. Man, Herbert's one, and then it's going to go back to my gut. I love Tua, love Tua. Burrow's just in a junk situation.
But he's got great weapons though.
He
But
does.
Flores is a better coach.
I
He
know.
has Chad Gainey.
I'm going to go with. I'll go with Tua for this reason. You want to look at that division? He's got to go through Pittsburgh and Baltimore the rest of his career, and Cleveland.
Good call. Plus, another thing pro Herbert. So, even in one quarterback leagues, I'm going after Herbert as much as I can before everybody kicks in, because it's hard for me to project in a dynasty league that he's not going to be a top 5 dynasty quarterback next offseason.
Right. Well, here's the one thing. Here's the one question. Actually, I thought about asking you guys. So I'm glad this got brought up. What is Justin Herbert going to be when they have Austin Eckler?
Or when they get a coach that's not so conservative.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that first down 2 yards, second down, let's hand off 2 yards. Herbert brings it back. They get a lead, then they go conservative again.
Mm-hmm.
And
Kyle Shanahan, right out of his book.
But hey, Rhys and I are huge Eckler fans, and so especially compared to the Justin Jacksons, Joshua Kelly's, even Kalen Balaj. Kalen Balaj is like the confirmation bias.
I cannot believe it.
He's the confirmation bias of what all's wrong with Adam Gase, isn't he?
Yep.
And
besides his press conference faces.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But all right, so here's one for you, Nick. If we redrafted one quarterback leagues, you get to redraft top 6 rookies. What are you doing? Who's 1 through 6 in a one quarterback league?
Redraft or dynasty?
Dynasty. You are going to redraft this last year's rookie draft.
Oh, that's so bad. One quarterback leagues. Okay. I'm going CD Lamb.
Yeah.
And this is I was wrong on this guy. CD Lamb, Justin Jefferson. Man.
None of the running backs that high?
Not yet. That is not yet. I mean, it's like, do you go another receiver? Do I go Higgins?
Judy's played well.
I know Judy's played well too. That's without Sutton too. So I'm just trying to think of. I think I'll go Lamb, Jefferson. Let's go Judy. Then I'll go with Clyde, James Robinson, Higgins. Darnell Mooney. No, I'm totally kidding. I'll go with.
And Mooney is on my off-season buy list because he's not going to have the stats. People are going to forget about him. And he is a legit top 35, 45 dynasty receiver. Tell me I'm wrong.
You're not wrong, but I'm going to tell you this. People will look at these, Foles missed him. He's running the wrong routes.
Right.
I don't like that. There's one where he ran a post corner, and he's supposed to come out to the corner, and he went up the field, and they're like, I can't believe he just missed him. He ran the wrong route. Also 2 weeks ago, against the Rams, when Foles threw a pick on the sideline to Jimmy Graham, there was a flood route. So there was a flat route. Graham was running basically a 10-yard out that Foles made him run further up because the flat defender came up. And then Mooney was the clear, which you run outside release and you take, what's his name? Jalen Ramsey with you. He stemmed and went inside. So then the safety took him and Ramsey could sit and squat and drove on it and pick the ball up. That's all on Mooney. But people are going to say, so he's a rookie. He's a 5th-round rookie from Tulane. He's not making all these great, routes all the time. But he caught a back shoulder fade with 1 foot in and 1 foot out on last week. I was like, man, people are going to forget this. So I typed it up so they know. He's better than people think, but he's not on this list yet. So I'm going to go Swift next.
Taylor.
So the thing is, it's like, I'm just not a Dobbins believer yet. I know people love him,
But that offense, man. All right, so I can see both sides, right? It's one of those that I
Right.
can see both sides. That I see how he flashed in college,
Let me look.
and I see how the Ravens set up the running game last year. But I
Right.
see how the Ravens aren't setting up the running game this year.
Right. I want to look at one thing quick. So J.K. Dobbins, what does he have? He has 14 receptions. Average that out, he's got 28 on the year. That's not enough.
No.
It's not enough. He's a great pass catcher. I don't care. That's not. And Lamar Jackson didn't throw to running backs last year. Right now, the sample size isn't there. And if you want to be a top running back, you got to catch 50 plus, 60 plus receptions. He doesn't have it.
Yep, and that's why Eckler and Mostert are two of the most underrated guys out there because of their age being in that 26, 27 age range. I don't know.
Mostert's good, man. Mostert's good. He's so slippery that people don't give him credit. So I guess I would finish it out. I would put, I think I would still go Taylor over Dobbins, despite my video on Taylor, which I'm sure you guys have seen, just of him messing stuff up. And then I would go Herbert.
More than
Herbert
Pittman or Claypool, more than Pittman or Claypool or I'm trying to think some of the other rookie receivers.
Yeah,
have been.
I think I struggle with Pittsburgh because you never know which of those three is going to do something, and we're really inflated by one game of Claypool. I will go with Rager.
Yeah,
I'll still pick him over Claypool, and then I went Taylor Dobbins, right? I still went them, right? I think. And then I'll probably go with, man, who's the second round there? You got Pittman. I like Pittman. I really like Pittman.
Antonio Gibson could have been higher.
Yeah. And I missed on him. I'll be honest. I didn't think he would develop the skills that he did.
Me either.
I didn't like that he was a running back on a bad team. He's not Saquon good. They can't, or Barry Sanders good for that matter.
Well, he's not Christian McCaffrey. I don't care who Ron Rivera.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably Gibson would be in there. Yeah.
That's a tough question though, man, because that's a good class. Just like tight ends. Harrison Bryant's really good.
Yep.
Troutman's flashed last night.
Troutman's flashed, and even like the Green Bay Josiah DeGuara or whatever, he played well in week 1 before he came out. Komet, I've been iffy on.
He flashed.
He made a couple plays, but yeah.
Yeah, but I just meant though that's a pretty good class. That's a pretty good class.
Wait till next year's class though.
The problem with the Bears, I think, though, that everybody doesn't like about them is that they've only played like one primetime game against the Rams, and they played poorly. So everybody then projects that as that's the way they play. Actually, they played 2. One that they beat
Tampa.
But they thought that was an ugly game. And then they...
Right. So I've been dominating the questions, Rhys. What do you have?
So you do a little bit of redraft, I believe. But who's the redraft 1-1?
Next
or
year.
Top half of the redraft next year?
Next year?
Yes.
McCaffrey still. I still play with McCaffrey. Not even close.
All right. Who's 2 and 3? Or 4? So the question gets into how much you believe in Barkley coming back.
Yep. Is
Then
he super flex?
No. So then you're talking Kamara, Zeke, and Cook. In Henry, but in what order, right?
Right.
How much you believe in Zeke being,
cooked?
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, and his is volume, but man, it's not even good volume right now. I would, man, that's a tough one. I would probably go McCaffrey, Kamara, Barkley, because gosh, I just like him, and you hope they just figure out passing him the football.
Jason Garrett, you can have faith.
Well, how about this too? When do we start thinking Michael Thomas could be Michael Thomas again?
I know,
because he was up there.
Yeah,
he was unbelievable.
And so, all right, I didn't want to presuppose this, but do you have David Montgomery in that class? After first.
How about him starting next year for Chicago?
Oh,
I would give someone else a shot. Ryan Nall got some playing time later, and you got to see it's weird. He picked up yards because he went straight.
How about that Mike Davis guy? Did he ever come through there?
My gosh, don't Kurt, it hurts. I hyped up Mike Davis and people are like, you don't know what you're talking about. And Mike Davis was so good. I'm like, he was really good at South Carolina. People forgot about that. And
Yeah, he was a tough Devy guy back then. Back us old timers. Go ahead.
Well, also, I believe it was Bob Harris who said this, that make a list of everybody who underperformed because of injury. Make a list because that's who you're getting cheap. Zeke also should be on that list because with Dak there, he's going to be more efficient because defense can't put 9 defenders in the box now, and they're probably not going to be losing as bad, so they can't do game script on them.
All right.
Well, you know what's really interesting about that one is 3 years ago, however long it was, that offensive line. Anybody can be awesome behind that offensive line. And then what happened to that offensive line? Everyone got hurt. People retiring, and that's that. We put so much time and effort into situations.
Yes.
Paris Campbell, first round pick. He's with Andrew Luck. What happened? I mean, time and again, Mecole Hardman, let's push him up there. Tyreek Hill suspended. Tyreek Hill's back. Mecole Hardman's not. We shouldn't draft on situations so heavy, and we do because it changes. Coaches get fired. People, free agents, injuries, all that stuff. Sorry, soapbox done.
Yeah, but you could take that so many directions, though. I mean, I will say this also about Zeke. I believed so much in situation until I started watching Pollard taking 20-yard chunks out of the defense when Zeke's getting a yard and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Pollard looks electric, and so I'm like, you got to figure out how to get him more touches, especially with a guy named Garrett Gilbert behind the center. Let's figure out some way to get some, playmaking.
I believe there was some talk early in the offseason where they were saying we'll put Pollard in the slot, but now I believe they should just make it 3 wide receivers, 2 running backs, and have Pollard out wide, just to see if they could spread out the defense a little bit better.
I will say this. You know who's getting dropped in some of my dynasty leagues, Nick, is Cedric Wilson, and I'm picking him up every time because he was pretty good at Boise State that people don't remember. And also,
I liked him there.
Dak was there; he was still doing well.
I'm a Brett Rippon fan, so man, I was watching all of them. Yep.
Hey, I was Brett Rippon fan when they beat Jets on Thursday Night Football.
I kept talking him up, and people thought I was serious. I'm like, come on, it's Brett Rippon, man.
What other questions you got for Nick? Come off the top rope on him.
Oh, Alex Smith. This is an easy one. Is Alex Smith now a fantasy viable quarterback in 2 quarterback or superflex leagues that are a little bit deeper?
Yes, because he's got Terry McLaurin.
That's pretty much where he is.
Yeah, I'm just like McLaurin. There was some conversation on Twitter today about where I have McLaurin in dynasty rankings. I have him 4th. Only because, all right, I'm going to list you my top 7, and you tell me what the one thing McLaurin has different than the others. Not in any order. Thomas, Brees, Hopkins, Murray, Adams, Rodgers, McLaurin,
Smith,
Kyle Allen, Smith, Haskins, Metcalf, Russell, Lamb, Dak long term, A.J. Brown, Tannehill. So the worst quarterback besides Alex Smith, Kyle Allen, Haskins is Tannehill. And Tannehill's a top 1/3 of the league quarterback in real life. I don't mean fantasy. I just mean that Tannehill's a legit quality starting quarterback.
But also, I think it's the fact that you got to list more than one that really states that problem with it.
Right.
I'm surprised you don't have those young 3 higher. I'm just being honest, just due to age. I mean, you think of Adams and Hopkins, and they're 27, 28. I mean, Lamb, 21. You got 6-7 more years on it. Just surprised. That's all.
That was the following tweet. So I won't mention who I had this dialogue with. I was like, I'm debating moving Adams 1 and
McDowell.
Huh?
McDowell, Ryan?
No, it was Dalton Case. But but moving Adams to number 1, because you can't really argue with what Adams is doing this year. Thomas, you could say he's a loose cannon. You don't know what's going to happen. Hopkins, I don't know. Hopkins playing well, but but should you still have him over A.J. Brown, who's putting up similar numbers? And so that's what Nick's point is if I had Adams and the 4 young guys in the top 5, that's probably my next iteration where I'm going.
Right.
Because But, Thomas, we were always like, when he comes back, he's going to still hit the ground. He's going to be awesome. But is he really going to outproduce A.J. Brown or Metcalf by that much to be worthy of being above them? I'm not so sure.
Especially with the now expanded Saints passing game. Because before, like last season, they're like, how can we get the ball to Michael Thomas? And now they're like, we can get the ball to
Traquan.
They threw the ball to, I believe, 12 receivers caught a pass last night. So they could throw a ball to 12 different players. Why should they force to feed the ball to one? And it's more diverse. You can argue that they're worth less. You don't have to pay them as much, so better for cap.
Yeah, I just don't see Breeze. Do you think Breeze is coming back next year?
No.
Yeah, me either.
He's cooked. No, one thing that I and this is a little bit different tangent, but one thing I always look for when I'm doing a during the season trade is I look at who I'm going to get. What do I really expect as a point differential that this player is going to do better than what I already have?
Right.
And then what asset am I giving on top of that? A lot of times I talk myself out of a trade. If it's 1 to 2 points maybe per week, and I'm getting up a first, I wouldn't do it. And I think a lot of times we think we're paying for like a name brand when we need to look at points. Right. And instead, it's like, because like for instance, I had a guy trying to give me Cooper Kupp, okay, and he wanted Corey Davis plus, and I played Devy plus Tylen Wallace. He doesn't know me, yeah. Plus Tylen Wallace plus like first, and I'm like, no, Corey Davis is producing almost equal as Cooper Kupp this year. Why would I give all these other assets on top of it when Davis is younger too? And plus, we know I love Corey Davis. Yeah. But that's how I talk myself through trades, and we need to think about ourselves in that way. I think more so it's about point differentials, not about names.
I believe it was Ryan McDowell who was saying, well, I think it was Ryan. It might have been someone else that said DK Metcalf and AJ Brown are so close that if we're doing a startup 1-1, I'd go with DK just because I can get a lot more because of his name versus AJ Brown.
Right, because he plays with Russ and everybody watches it.
Yes. Well, what have you done for me lately too? DK's had a better year than AJ, but man, AJ's been great lately.
Oh yeah, it just pains me. Truth serum. It pains me to think all those guys on Evan Ingram, all those guys on that Ole Miss team.
Dawson Knox, Van Jefferson.
Oh yeah.
Lodge was there, and then and Shea Patterson ruined that, and then goes to Michigan.
Yeah,
and he's got Tariq Black. He's got Nico Collins, Donovan Peoples-Jones. And whatever people think of them, that's a really good college group of guys. He ruined 2 great groups of guys. Oh, Shea Patterson.
What's crazy, and Rhys, you can believe me or not, is that if we looked at recruiting 5-star, 4-star, and such, that Michigan group had a higher rated receiver class than the one at Ole Miss coming into college.
Does not surprise me.
I mean, Donovan Peoples-Jones and Tariq Black were like 2 of the top 3 or 4 in that class, according to ESPN.
Now Black's at Texas?
Yes.
Yeah, too many foot injuries. Black was my top receiver. I think Jones was 2, and I think Collins was 9 in my own personal rankings from my Devy report.
Yep. All right. So, I said that about my dynasty, not to talk about my dynasty teams, but I'm right there with you because also it's understanding the market. Like a guy like Herbert, even though he's playing awesome, everybody's giving him this love. In one quarterback leagues, tell me this: would you rather have he or Lamar?
I'd rather have Justin Herbert.
That's my point. Do you know what I'm saying? The difference in value is very.
You get him cheaper. Yeah, way cheaper.
Yeah, because then there was one I was rolling in the season with Fitzpatrick and Andy Dalton. Fitzpatrick goes down, and we know what happened to Dalton the next week. So I give Gallup in a second, knowing this guy paid a second for Herbert. Gallup's a good receiver. He's okay receiver. But Herbert's a long-term difference maker if he continues this. And, he's out. He's producing as well as Kyler Murray. He's producing just as well as Mahomes. And no name value. Value.
And look at the weapons too. He's got Keenan for a while. Yeah. Williams, Hunter Henry. When he gets Eckler back, that's what you want around you.
Yep. What other questions you have for Nick?
Well, how has college football affected the Devy rankings and Devy perception that was going into the season versus what it is today? The obvious one is Waddle.
Yeah. What
Right.
changed for you?
Right. I mean, honestly, I struggle a little bit because there's some guys that played and some guys that like haven't played.
Right.
Like you look like Journey Brown hasn't played. So, and he's a guy I haven't been as high on, but how much am I going to like bump up these other guys and then just not do anything? It's like an injury, it's like, is the starter terrible because they haven't played? Or, I'll bring this one up because he's one of my guys. Ronald Jones barely played his rookie year, but people are like, he's trash. I'm like, well, he just didn't play, like how do we know? But there are some guys that if they've played poorly, I'll knock them down, Brock Purdy, looking at you, he's one of them.
Yeah,
But Zach Wilson, he's got to go up because he's played unreal. Kyle Trask, he's got to go up. But like some of them, like Justin Fields, we don't have the sample size. Trey Lance, not as much of a sample size. So to me, I think it's I'm not going to answer your question. It's yes and no. How about that?
Well, Mac Jones
too.
Well, there's something about those Iowa State guys that you just don't like Purdy and Montgomery. There's just something about them.
I like Charlie Kohler. How about that? I'll give you that one. Good tight end.
You probably like the running back there now.
Breece Hall.
Yeah.
Well, how about that? Breece Hall, my top running back in his class. He had a better. Now people hate this stat. Don't hate me. He had a better yards per carry as a freshman than Montgomery had his last year. Freshman.
It happens.
Well, one plays in the NFL, one plays in the Big 12. There's a connotation that goes with that.
No, I'm saying his last year at Iowa State.
When they were both on the same team at the same time.
Okay. I thought you were talking about Montgomery.
No. Montgomery, you just chalk it up to 3.5 yards per carry at best, and that's what he's going to do in the NFL.
Yeah. But the other one to that, though, and I'm piling on your point, is Trevor Lawrence misses 2 games because of COVID. And now the Heisman odds go to someone else because he misses 2 out of 10 games. I'm like, either he's the Heisman or he's not. There's no reason that Mac Jones should be favored over Trevor Lawrence in the Heisman because Trevor Lawrence misses 2 games.
With a non-injury.
Yes.
Yep.
Am I wrong on that? No.
Well, it's also a stat of how good your team is, and Clemson lost. And it's a counting one too, if he can produce some better numbers. But overall, I agree with your point. And plus, how it is. There's hype things that go up and down. Manti Te'o, remember that? And then
yep. But
that's how it is.
I just think it's that we have, and I'll say this about life. You're a life coach and everything, but I will say this about life is that we have too short of a view. All of our problems are immediate. We want them solved today. Mm-hmm. When in reality, we look back and we had a longer runway to make that decision. Mm-hmm. And, when I was his age, I was the same way. And I'm like, well, I'm now a little bit older, I should have a longer viewpoint. And I feel the same way about Trevor Lawrence, mm-hmm. and they're all data points. But Mac Jones is one that I think you have to give. At the end of the year, we chalked it up. He has all these great receivers. He's really not that good. But Mac Jones is playing pretty well.
And he's not getting credit besides on the Heisman odds makers.
Yeah.
Right.
What other questions do you have for Mr. Nick Whalen?
Easy one.
Oh, no. Don't give me easy ones.
Okay. If Dak's playing, are the Cowboys favorites to win the NFC East?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Dak on your Bears. How many losses do they have now?
Right now? 1.
Even with his injury?
No.
The Bears would be undefeated. You think of it. They've given up hardly any points, and they've lost by a touchdown or less to every game, but it's by more to the Rams.
They lost by 14 to the Rams.
Yeah,
they lost by a phantom penalty to the Bills. Well, wrong penalty, I guess, because it was holding, not PI.
Who?
The Bills.
To the Bills. Oh wait, never mind. That's the Rams. Sorry.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There. You could say the Giants. There's a penalty at the end,
but also I was going to say that shows you why teams chase quarterbacks so much, right? Is that you take Dak, who Dallas doesn't want to pay, and there's a ton of teams that would line up to pay him.
Oh, with Dak's agent right now, So you see that that dysfunctional offense. That's what happens when you take my guy out of it. I want about $45 million a year.
Yeah.
They can
You
only
know,
tag him one more time. I mean, Dak would be foolish to take anything that he doesn't love as a contract.
now I've always had this theory where you pay the top five-ish quarterbacks in the NFL and you let everybody else walk. You
Right.
continually churn and draft a quarterback every other year in the first or second round, and then you build everyone else around them. Because you see teams get completely, they self-destruct once they pay the quarterback because they can't afford anybody else, and so it just really runs them into the ground. And you know, look at the Rams. They paid a couple guys, and they just like, you know, there's a ton more. So I would not pay these guys in that 8 to 15, 20 range the 25, 30 million they're going to need now. I wouldn't. I would just pay a rook. Look at the teams that make these great runs. They're on the rookie contract, and they can pay everyone else, and they can have a really good team around them.
Yeah, you can look at who Dallas ran out and looked decent this week. And you know, I'm right there with you, especially because what always happens, I think of it as tiers, okay? You have this top tier of however many. We always pay that next tier down, those next few players, we pay them like they're in that tier above.
Like tight ends this year, I think it's
right. But also, I'm not a huge NBA fan, but it happens with the NBA because they pay the moderately good players like they're really good. And so now you're stuck because you can only pay so many of those guys. Now, Dallas, if they wouldn't have given Zeke all that money, may have been able to afford Dak when he was cheaper because his price is only going up. I mean, if you're Dak's agent, do you even sign Nick, or do you just go, hey, we'll see what the market will bear?
Honestly, with them, I'd be so frustrated. I would hit the market. And what? It doesn't hurt you? Right. Are you going to get less money because you're on the free agent market? Like, no way.
That's 1 year out. So the only risk you're taking is getting injured 2 consecutive years. But you're right, because the demand is only going up. You know, we listed earlier the number of teams. Because think of Dak on Indy. They'd be a Super Bowl fave.
Or right even, could you imagine Dak on the football team throwing to Scary Terry?
Yeah, they would be they would probably be one of our favorites. All right, one question, and then I'll turn it over to Rhys, see what else he has. Is Carson Wentz fallible? Or should we start looking at him like, hey, I don't know if you're a legit franchise, because he's probably in your 8 on category.
Yep, he is.
I mean, I'm cooled on him. I've cooled on him a lot.
Right. He can't get out of his own way right now. Right now, he's trying to make too many big plays. He needs to make the easy plays. You want to look at Brees and Brady? Why have they made a career? They made a career doing these dump offs all the time, and it's so annoying. It's like, you want to defend them, you defend between the hash marks and 5 yards, make them throw beyond there, and they're not going to do a whole lot. And Carson Wentz is trying to throw a 30-yard bomb like every play. It's like, man, just take what's there. And old line's beat up, weapons are beat up. You have to give him that. But I am cooled as well. I want to see him with a healthy Rager, an old line that can block anybody. And we'll see. But he's down for sure. But I'm not out. I'm just down.
You mentioned those quarterbacks who throw the ball 5 yards or less down the field. I believe that's if you take away that, the Vikings are toast, because that's about only that Cousins throws like 98% of the time.
That's why they went after Jefferson, though, because that's like right in
plays. Yep.
The Eagles fans will not like this, but the Eagles drafted Rager for his speed. Yet I believe either Jefferson was faster or Rager was faster by 0.01 seconds on this 40.
Yeah.
And look how each one's turned out. Jefferson's now probably consensus top 5 rookie pick if we redid it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Rager's been injured, so it's a little too early.
Right. Sort of like with Ruggs.
Yeah, but how about Fulgham? He's played well.
I know. I mean, he's a guy that, I chalked it up initially to, someone had to get the targets, but he's producing. Actually, I looked at, I think, points per game. He's top 6 for receivers.
Yes.
So
he's Marcus Colston. When I see him, I see Marcus Colston.
Oh, Marcus Colston. People remember, is he a tight end? Remember that designation for a year? Oh, it's awesome.
It was awesome because you could pick up this receiver who was the receiver 1 for the Saints, but he was designated in some leagues, kind of like Cordero Patterson's
or Josh Hill, not Josh Hill.
Taysom Hill.
Taysom.
No.
Yeah. What other questions do you have?
Where do you guys have James Robinson?
And redraft or
Dynasty.
Not high enough. Not high enough because those people that think that they're going to address Jaguars have too many other problems.
Yep.
They are not going to address them. He's got to be a top. What do you think? 10 or a dozen running backs?
I think I'd take him today over Hilaire because Robinson's job is completely secure.
Bell's not going to be there forever.
Bell's not going to be there forever. But what about the Damon Williams?
Yeah.
Damien Williams is a very productive running back when he gets the ball. And
wasn't I on a pod where you guys argued about Damien Williams because I liked him? I thought you guys did one with him.
We argue about everything, and that's what's so fun about it.
Yeah, and honestly, like James Robinson film is good.
Yes,
he's. I mean, he's not your specimen, but here's the thing: he's always going to be underrated. How many years was Arian Foster underrated before finally people were like, okay, he's a UDFA, but he's good, or whatever he was,
right.
All the time we want to just these guys that are UDFAs or late round picks, we want to hang on to that draft capital for some reason when now it's irrelevant. It is irrelevant. He is produced beyond that. And, if I had to, if you had to put polls out there like, hey, James Robinson or Jonathan Taylor, James Robinson or Cam Akers, people are going to lean towards the draft pick. It's like, man, I'm telling you, this guy's producing and he's going to produce probably for at least 2 years. And that's about as far out as really you should look because you never know what's going to happen.
I think draft capital is overused on running backs as so many of them have produced, like Aaron Jones, James Conner. I can just cherry pick.
How about Carson? How about Eckler?
I could cherry pick from the 2017 class. I can just cherry pick there.
Right.
But for the quarterbacks, though, I do believe draft capital is very important. As the top 3 quarterbacks this year are first rounders. Kyler Murray's first overall pick.
They get a longer leash.
Yes, they do. That's a great way to put it.
So how about this? Chris Carson. He's so underrated for the exact same reason, Jeff.
Yes. 7th round pick, 6th round pick.
Not that good. He's been one of the best running backs when healthy this year. And he came back from that crazy knee injury.
Yeah.
I have no idea how. And the irony behind Hill tearing his ACL the next week. The irony.
Oh, yeah. But I'm just saying, Eckler, star, Mostert, star. And those are the guys in a dynasty league. Here's the part so you and I are in alignment on this, Nick. Take a 23-year-old, 22-year-old Cam Akers. There is no guarantee that he makes it to 26. I would actually, 26, and I mean producing at a high level. I would actually say that if you gave me the next 4 years, Mostert has more fantasy points than Cam Akers.
Right. I don't. Cam Akers is Christine Michael to me.
Oh my, that's a shot over the bow. Rhys, I know it is. He was a physical specimen.
I've heard of him. I have a couple of his football.
I've heard of him. Oh, Jeff, we're so old, man.
I know, man. But I just meant though, the Kalen Balaj, all those guys, they're specimens, and the simple like vision hitting a hole, getting north south like Mostert does or Carson does. I mean, if Carson played for your beloved Bears, we'd be talking about him a lot more in a big market in the central of the U.S., not up in the Pacific Northwest. Anyway, you have any other questions for Mr. Nick?
One. Just one. It's real easy. Akers or Montgomery dynasty?
I'm going to go Akers.
Even though he's in a timeshare?
Even if he's not, because I don't think Montgomery is the starter next year. I can't see it. He's so bad. And I know the O-line is not good. I get that. And I watched the film, but just you can't average 3.5 yards per carry 2 years in a row or less. I don't even know what it is right now, and be a starter. You just can't. People hated Jordan Howard. He's better than what Montgomery's doing.
Jordan Howard's a legit okay running back. I said okay. All right, how about this? Who's the starter quarterback for the Bears next year?
Nick Foles.
You think it's a gimme?
Yeah. He's not the problem.
Yeah, I don't think it's Trubisky.
But, he's not under contract either. Trubisky's walking. But Nick Foles is, and here's the other part. He's under a cheap deal. People don't get this. The Bears have a good opportunity. They can build around him. I think he's on the leash for maybe $8 million a year the next 2 years. That's a great deal. People are like, oh, they're on the hook. For if let's say he's the 23rd best quarterback, $8 million a year is cheap. That's like a rookie deal.
Yeah.
Now you can fix the O-line, get him more weapons, do all that kind of stuff.
That's why Fitzpatrick should get more credit because wherever he's been. No, I meant though they've been able to
do okay.
Yeah, but like if you're Pittsburgh, why don't you give him $2 more million than anyone else just to back up Ben? Because you have a gunslinger coming in.
Yeah. You remember him with Stevie Johnson?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I loved Stevie Johnson in Buffalo.
Stevie Johnson's a Ryan McDowell fave. So
love
with
Kentucky
perception and Matt Harmon.
Yeah. All right. What were you going to ask?
Oh, so I this is a not exactly a fantasy relevant question, but it's part of the reason why you don't like Cam Akers is he's cutting into Darrell Henderson.
No. He's a guy that, and I pick one every year where I just value them differently. With Akers, it was before he got drafted. I don't like his decision making. I don't like his balance. I just think he's so overrated. I mean, because the running back position isn't size and speed, and people keep doing size and speed, and it's just not. Or highlight tapes. It's not that. And me and Whalen, again, just referencing, talked about that. I mean, there's the first game of the year where Akers is in the goal line, probably on the 5 or so. He runs and he has to follow his pulling guard, but he was way too close and got hit off balance and dives and doesn't even convert a first down there because he just doesn't anticipate something going wrong. Football is mass chaos. You have to have a wide toolbox of different things you can do to solve a problem in front of you. And he has a very narrow toolbox. But you look at someone like Antonio Brown, et cetera, they have these huge toolboxes because they're anticipating things. They have good balance and anticipation and all that kind of stuff. It's not just size, speed.
Right. So take a guy like Boston Scott, underappreciated. I think he could have a longer career. The thing about Cam Akers, Rhys, is he was a high school quarterback for much of us, and he was the number one recruit going into Florida State. Right, Nick? I mean, he was up there.
Yep. He was my number one out of high school. Yep.
Everybody's number one recruit, not just a running back. And so he has a lot to live up to. And a lot of people, just like we were talking about draft capital, a lot of people are bringing that capital with, that recruiting capital forward.
Well, and the other thing, people do this all the time, is if you hit early in college, you're a Devy darling, it hangs with you. Look at N'Keal Harry. N'Keal Harry was a Devy darling because he produced early, and they're going to keep hanging. And I didn't see it. I didn't see it in college after his freshman year. He didn't evolve. And again, I mean, you could call it cherry picking if you want, but he just hasn't produced, Same with Montgomery. Flashed a little bit early, hasn't continued, but people want to keep pushing it up. Geis, I mean, I'm just going to pick on him, but like, he was the 7th running back drafted in the NFL. Do you think all these teams put all this research in because they're like, well, the character thing was just, one team just made that up. This is their job.
Right. So, what's funny to me is Jacoby Myers has a legit chance of having a better NFL career than N'Keal Harry.
Yeah.
Legit.
Yep. I wonder how they're doing right now for watching. We're taping during that game, but
last question. You got him?
You go.
You sure?
Yeah.
You have a comment for him?
I believe that Akers and Montgomery have been watching too many Le'Veon Bell tapes when he was with the Steelers of just hanging behind the offensive line, waiting for one of the double teams to just open up. And Le'Veon Bell could do that with the Steelers because they had David DeCastro. I'm probably going to butcher this, but Alejandro Villanueva, Mike Pouncey. And he could just wait back there and see what opens up. He can't do that with the Jets. Besides, if Mickey Becton could somehow block everybody, wouldn't put it past him.
He could.
He can't just sit back there and do that. And I don't think the Chiefs have a good enough offensive line, and that's why he's ineffective. But he needs to wait and see it to happen.
Right. I got a question for you guys then.
Okay.
Rhys, what are you working on? What's next for you?
Right now I was working on the projections because Vegas doesn't imply total. I was going to see what the touchdown percentage is. Let's say a team throws a touchdown two-thirds of the time, and they're projected, and Vegas says they're going to score 24 points, which I don't know. But that means that they'll score probably 3 touchdowns or 4 touchdowns. And those are probably the only 2 ways that they're going to get that. I highly doubt they're going to kick back.
So you think they're going to do, so you're trying to project how that implied total is going to be?
I got you.
Yes. Kind of do what DFS does, but see if I could take it a little bit a step further.
Interesting. And then Jeff, what's the next familyfication?
Oh man, I don't know. We're looking at taking a short one this for Thanksgiving. We're still trying to work out the details, but people don't know this, but Nick knows this. Our family vacations, I enjoy them because I work a lot, and so they're road trips a lot of the time, especially now that we can't fly very easily.
Yes.
But we've made it to the lower 48. And before Rhys all the way through all the lower 48 before Rhys turned 15. And so he turns 15 next weekend. So anyway.
Really?
Yes. But
early happy birthday, man.
Yeah. Thanks. But so anyway, I enjoy getting out of town. I enjoy, let's go do some things. So
yeah.
I enjoyed the last one. We met you. We had deep dish with Harstead. We went to Pro Football Hall of Fame later.
Yeah, it was a good birthday for Rhys, or a good road trip. All right, hey Nick, last question. I know this is right up your wheelhouse. Where can people find you and your stuff?
Yeah, right now I'm kind of just hanging out. I don't have a whole lot going on, but @_Nick Whalen on Twitter. On there you can find websites for my life coaching, for my publications, all that kind of stuff. But I'm also starting YouTube. I'm dabbling with that, doing breakdowns. If you guys have requests of what you want me to do, let me know. Sometimes I don't know what I want to do, but I got all the equipment. It takes a little bit of time. I'm getting better at it, but it's fun too. So yeah, @_Nick Whalen on Twitter.
I will say that we should give him some requests, like pick all of the great runs by David Montgomery. Pick all the times
that's a short tape right there too.
It reminds me of something I saw early in quarantine. And it said, quarantine's getting bad if someone had enough time to pick out 12 minutes of Mitchell Trubisky highlights.
Oh man, I tell you what, it's not good.
You have to go all the way back to high school to find those.
Yeah. I know. You had that short stretch where that game against Tampa and another one, I'm just like, maybe this is who he is. It's not who he is.
I will tell you the ones that I think that would be an awesome one would be the improvements in Josh Allen's game with the addition of Stephon Diggs. Mm-hmm. Because having that reliable route running guy, I like Smokey Brown, don't get me wrong, but Diggs is special, and we don't give him the credit because he's been in Minnesota and now Buffalo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's part of it. I watched Brett Coleman. He's a guy, you guys, if you're down on YouTube, I like his stuff. He looked at his mechanics and said he's changed his mechanics somewhat, and he throws a better ball because of his mechanics. I mean, you look at his completion percentage. I know he's had this bad stretch of games, but he isn't way improved, and it's not, Diggs is a part of it, but I think also they've changed the offense to fit him, and he's also improved his lower body as well.
When you go from Zay Jones and Foster to Diggs, of course your percentage of completion is going to go up a little bit. Mm-hmm. That could be Captain Obvious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is just funny. I don't know if you know this, Jeff. When Zay Jones was coming out, I was not a fan.
Right.
And I posted something about it. He had like one big game. He had like all these yards. I'm like, yeah, but he had like 15 receptions. Like, it was after like 8 yards of reception or something. Anyway, his dad.
Yes, I remember this.
Oh, do you remember this? Came after me, and then I asked his dad where he had him ranked in the wide receiver class. No, I didn't even. He laughed too. He was just funny. But by the way, his dad was an NFL champion with the Cowboys, Robert Jones. It was just so funny interactions. Zay Jones, I mean, a good NFL complimentary guy, 4th guy maybe, but yeah, you got to have more than that.
Yeah, the Raiders have their collection. Go ahead.
Yeah,
well, you mentioned another thing. Your Josh Allen thing brought up another thing I was working on for my book next year.
Oh, cool.
I was going to look at completion percentage based off of separation and see Josh Allen's greatly improved his passer rating, his completion percentage, but I wonder, is that because of how much more separation he's getting this year?
His receivers.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I was going to look at that from Next Gen Stats.
Mm-hmm.
That's a decent look.
Yes.
The other way to look at that, Rhys, would be per position because different teams scheme the tight end and running back open versus others like a dot would be another factor in there, wouldn't you think, Nick?
Oh yeah.
Completion percentage for Kyler Murray, who throws those bubble screens, is so much different than somebody that throws it down the field. And so we have to go apples to apples.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The one thing too is, it would be interesting if, I don't know if you can get this kind of stat, would be yards per play or, like a completion percentage, et cetera, when there's pre-snap motion.
Yes.
Versus not, because that's a new fad now. It'd be interesting to see the differential there. Just an idea.
I was going to say St. Louis. The Rams were the ones that really put that when they'd send somebody across. McVay would call in, "Hey Goff, call this play. Here's who your first and second read is.
Yep.
Go that route." People don't realize that coaching only, and I want to say football more than basketball. Basketball is player driven because there's so few on. Football, the elite coaches have such an advantage over the non-elite coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the Chargers losing so many in a row. Look at so many.
Chicago's getting outcoached.
Yes.
All the time. And they have a great defense. They're getting outcoached.
Yep, right. But I'm just saying that the difference, we say, oh, they're all even. No, they're not.
They're not even. Nope.
And, people complain about penalties. That's a coaching stat. That's not a player stat. That Javon Mims is a coaching stat.
Nope.
And
what, his boxing debut?
Yes. I just meant, though, nobody would ever try that on the Steelers because they wouldn't want to go look Tomlin in the eye.
No, and I think, I think the Bears are a little bit of falling apart, and they need something, and I think even having Nagy give over play calling duties would be a good thing right now. Let him be the head coach and let someone else run the O.
I think that they are right now missing Vic Fangio because I think they'd want him as head coach, being that disciplinarian, putting a bigger stress on the defense. So if he's a
Broncos guy.
Yes.
Says the Broncos fan.
I didn't mean by that, but
I love Vic. I'm good with it.
If there's a problem with discipline, you probably want to go get the disciplinarian. That was Vic Fangio because he didn't make very many mistakes.
Right. Well, I tell you what, you don't want your quarterback questioning your head coach to the media.
No. And it being bounced back and locking forward, just stirring the waters, man. They just chumming the sharks.
Yeah.
But you mentioned situation. Look how Aguilar's jumped out now that he's out of Philadelphia. You wonder
Nelson Aguilar, yeah.
You wonder if that was Wentz or Peterson, or if that's just Derek Carr trying to take a shot.
Or they're scheming him plays open.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there could be Aguilar, lost his confidence there and he got his confidence back in a new situation. Like there's so many things with it where, maybe he was hurt and no one knew about it,
Oh yeah. And so anyway.
Like Kamara tearing his MCL.
Yeah.
Right.
Impressive what he's did with the torn MCL.
I know. He's so good.
It's been a long podcast and it's gone longer than we thought it would. So we appreciate your time. Don't want to keep you too long, Nick. Let you get to watching Monday Night Football.
All right.
We appreciate we could talk all night and you could tell he and I could. And so we always appreciate your time. Hopefully you'll be on, you'll come back later in the season.
Oh, of course. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
We'll revisit this.
Thanks for coming on.
See you.
Bye.